B'shus de Rosh Hashiva Shlita. It's a pleasure to be back again after a lengthy Bein Hazmanim. And it's a special privilege and pleasure to see so many new faces in the yeshiva. And I want to tell all our new Talmidim that you made a very, very wise choice coming to Toras Chaim, to this very special yeshiva. And my bracha to all of you that you should grow and come every day closer to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, to Ahavas Torah and Yiras Shamayim. And one of the highlights of my week is Friday morning in Toras Chaim. In this week's parsha, we have the Aveira of Shoichad. Lo yisata mishpat, lo yisaki ponim, lo yitikach shoichad, ki ha-shoichid ya'avrei nechachomim v'yisalef divrei tzadikim. Shoichet in English is a bribe, and you cannot bribe dayanim. The Rambam makes it clear, first source on our page, Lo yisikach shoichad, ein tzorech loim ala aves es adin. Goes without saying, you can't pay a dayan and explicitly say, I want you to be on my side. That's gzeila. And that we already know from Lo yisata mishpat. The Yisr of shoichet is even lezakois es hazakai. Person gives money to the dayan, and he pretends. He says, if I'm wrong, say I'm wrong. If I'm liable, say I'm liable. Just do what needs to be done, but take some money anyway. Lezakai says a zakai, that is also the Aveira of Shoichet. No transfer of money, no benefit to a dayan. And the fact that you're going to tell the dayan, don't lie, don't cheat, just do what needs to be done, that's not relevant. That still is a Isser of Shoichet. And then Rambam writes, Chayiv la'achzir ha-shoichet kishiyid be'eno hanoisein. If a dayan did take shoichet, that money needs to go back to the person that bribed you. You cannot keep that money. And the question is, why not? And how do we know that you need to pay back that money? Kishiyid be'eno hanoisein. The Rambam also makes it clear that you don't have to give back the shoichet unless the person that bribed you asks to get his money back. So long as he doesn't ask to get his money back, you could keep the money. And why is that? Begneva ugzeila, if a person robbed or stole money, he needs to give that money back regardless of whether the victim asked for the money back or not. It's a mitzvah sasei, v'heishav esegzeila asher gazal. Why would shoichet be different? Shulchan Aruch follows in the Rambam's footsteps. Moed tzorech adayin lezoah shelo yilekach shoichet afilu lezakai es hazakai ve'im lokochoi tzorech lachziroi kishiyid be'eno hanoisen. So we have two questions. Why tzorech lachziroi? How do we know? By Gneva Gzeila, the Torah gives a mitzvah sasei, v'heishav esegzeila. But b'shoichet we don't find a mitzvah, and if there is a chiyuv to give the money back, why does it depend whether the person that gave you this money demands to get his money back? So the same question is in Bava Metzia Daf Nun Vav by Oinoah. Lo yisainu ish es amisai. And if you made a person overpay without his knowledge, you're selling an item which should cost $10, and you took more money than you deserve. You made him overpay. That is what is defined halachically as oinoah. And the Gemara says, if the oinoah is a sixth, then mekech kayim v'machzir oinoah. How do we know you need to give back oinoah? So the Pnei Yeshua says in Bov Metzia Daf Nun Vav, and that is the sugya of oinoah. If this money is illegitimate, you're not allowed to take this money, then it's gzeila biyodoi. And he has the mitzvah v'heshav es gzeila. Would we say the same regarding sheichad? If the money is not legitimate, then it's gzeila. Is there a difference between oinoah and sheichad? I once again want to make clear what is oinoah. I sold an item. Might be a house for $3 million, might be a pen for 10 shekel, but I took 12 shekel instead of 10 shekel. So the din is, you need to give back the money that the person overpaid. If it's yoyse mishtus botel mekach, you just get your pen back and give the entire sum back. But it's a shtus mekach kayim v'machzir oinoah. Would sheichad be the same as oinoah? If we accept the chiddush of the Pnei Yeshua, oinoah automatically equals gneva, and you have a mitzvah v'heshav es gzeila. Would we say the same regarding sheichad? So I want to tell our new talmidim in this year, many times I expect you to take part, to participate. So what do you think? Our old talmidim and the new ones. Is sheichad the same as oinoah? Or there is room to argue oinoah equals gneva, but sheichad it does not. Do you see any difference between oinoah and sheichad? By sheichad, the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam clearly say sheichad only if he asks for his money back. That would prove that it's not gneva. But why? What would the svara be to differentiate between sheichad and oinoah? Is there any svara to differentiate between the two? You have a very good point. If it would be gneva, then you need to give the money back regardless of whether he demands the money or not. But why? My question is why? Why would there be a difference between the two? Gneva v'gzeila, you take money without the consent of the Baalim. By gzeila, violently. By gneva, bo b'machteres, you broke into his home when he wasn't aware and you stole stuff. But the common denominator, the tzad shova between gneva and gzeila, is you took money without the consent of the Baalim. Neged retzayin ha-Baalim. By sheichad, the person that gave sheichad gave it, and he expects to get a good return for his money. From his point of view, it's a great investment. Hopefully, the dayan will be on my side. Nobody cheated him. He didn't give money mistakenly. Oinoah is somewhere between gneva and gzeila and sheichad. By oinoah, the person gave the money out of his free will, but he thought he's paying the right price. If he would know that you cheat him and he's overpaying, then he definitely wouldn't agree to give you that money. So I know on one hand is not entirely similar to gneva gzeila. I didn't hurt anyone, I didn't threaten anyone, I didn't break into a person's house, but you did cheat him. And if you would know that he's overpaying, you wouldn't give this money. So I know is far closer to gneva than sheichad. I didn't even ask for this money. Even if I did ask for the money, but he gave this money out of his free will, and he expects this to be a good investment. So I know it wouldn't be similar to gneva gzeila at all. So how do we know that you need to return this money? So there are many different ideas in the Achronim. But the way I see it, any money you're not allowed to take, you must give back. It is totally unreasonable that this payment is not legitimate. It's not legit. And if they got money, I could keep it. No, it's two sides of the same coin. If you're not allowed to take this money, the fact that you took the money means nothing. If you're not allowed to take, you need to give back. So why by Geneva Igzela do we need a posek, a mitzvah sasei v'heisheves agzela? We could answer this question in many ways. Maybe it is from v'heisheves agzela that we learn this principle. And many times in my shiurim, and our previous talmidim probably remember, I speak about Rotza in HaTorah. We learn Musar from Mitzvahs HaTorah. And from the Mitzvahs Aseh of V'Heishavas Agzela, Chazal say, the Mitzvahs Aseh refers only to Geneva Igzela. But from this Mitzvahs Aseh, we learn that any money you're not allowed to take, you need to give back. We also need the Posek V'Heishavas Agzela to teach us Kama v'Kama halachas, Shinui Koino. V'Heishavas Agzela Asher Gozal Ke'en Shegozal. Kol HaGazlona Mishalmin Kishas Agzela. There are various different halachas that we learn from V'Heishavas Agzela Asher Gozal. But why is it only Kishiyid Ve'eno? So we go over to Levush. Who knows who was the Levush? What was his name and when did he live? How many years ago? Who was the Levush? Reb Mordechai Yaffa, great. Did you know him? You should. I know him. How long ago did he live? Great, great. You learn in yeshiva? You learn here? Where do you learn? Yes, so the Rosh lived almost 500 years ago. And in the introduction, he tells an interesting story, what brought him to write his Sefer. The Beis Yosef came out during his lifetime. And he said, it's an amazing work, but it's too lengthy. It's too long. He brings the Gemaras and all the Rishonim. And the Levush said, I think we need a similar Sefer, but more concise, more shorter version. So I started writing my Sefer. Before I was finished, the Shulchan Aruch came out. So I was once again thrown back. Is this what I intended to do? And then he said, the Shulchan Aruch is too short. We need something in the middle. And that is how we were zeichet to the Levush. And I'm happy he made those decisions. The Beis Yosef is too long, Shulchan Aruch is too short. That is how we were zeichet to the Levush. So let's learn this very short paragraph, number 3. Im lokach tzorach lachziro kishit ve'eno noisen. Shiyoyim shaloi machaloi. Ele shiyorim emene shaloi yekalkal dino lakach nason eloi. Aval ameinoi tovoi, ene tzorach aziroi. Shevade belev sholem nosna loi ve'machaloi loi. So the Levush has a very interesting interpretation, and he says, if we would be confident that the person that gave the dayan this money gave it out of his totally free will, I don't mind if you keep the money, then he doesn't need to give the money back. It is only if the person demands, I want my money back, then we assume he wasn't really up to it. He didn't want to give the dayan this money. He was just afraid that maybe the other party is bribing him, or maybe he's a friend of the other party. So I gave this money. I didn't really feel up to it. I didn't want to give him this money, and it's not a mechila gemira. And that is why, as long as he doesn't demand his money back, we assume he gave it out of his free will. It's my money. But if he demands his money back, we assume he never really intended to give. And this is a somewhat far-fetched assumption. To assume that I never wanted to give this money. In Mominis, it doesn't depend on the dakos and the nuance, did you want to give or not. The person that gives a gift Cannot say later, I didn't really want to give the gift. I just had some kind of a cheshbon. And we also learn from the Levush that if he gave this money belev sholem, the money doesn't need to go back. I think it does need to go back, as we said before. If you're not allowed to take, then you need to give back. So what's clear from the Levush, when he speaks about mechila, he's not speaking about mechila b'di'eved, but mechila b'sho that I gave this money. Did I really want to give it or not? And misvora, we would say, doesn't matter what you thought in your heart. Nobody forced you to give this money. You gave this money, it's a matona gemura. Shvus Yankov was 100 years younger than the Levush, one of the greatest poskim of his generation. So the Shvus Yankov disagrees with the Levush. And he says, if we assume that there was mechila, kishe'enoi toiveya, how is he Naaman to come 6 months later and say, I want my money back? If you didn't ask for your money immediately, that proves he gave belev sholem. So is there any limitation how much time he has to ask his money back? So the Levush's understanding, kishiyid be'eno hanoisein, the person that took bribes needs to give that money back. But Beis Din won't intervene without a tviyah, and that is kishiyid be'eno hanoisein. The difficulty with this pshat is, Maika mashmalan. Maika mashmalan. Even in Gzeile and Geneva, Beis Din won't intervene unless there's a toiveya. I mean, in modern law, there are two different types of court cases. Civil law is monetary claims. When Reuven calls Shimon to a din Torah or to a court case, and you owe me money, you stole, you cheated, you bought an item and you didn't pay for it. And then there is mishpat plili. I don't know what it's called in English. What is mishpat plili? The opposite of criminal law. Criminal cases, criminal law, in which the state is the one that is the toveya, that is the claimant. It's not a civil case with you. And lahavit l'elef of dollars, the same as in Beis Din. Chilul Shabbos, bo'ala erva, hoirig nefoshes, is between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and the claimant. But Dina Momenes, Beis Din will never convene and deal with the case without a terveya. The same goes to Gnei Gezeila. Without a terveya, there is no case. So what's the Revusa Kishiyat Be'enu Anoisein? So this pshat is also somewhat unreasonable. Shah Mishpat, similar to the Levush, but with a very clear difference. The Shah Mishpat doesn't deal when he gave you this shaychad, did he give belev sholem or not? That is not relevant. Even if he gave it belev sholem, you need to give that money back because it's not legitimate. But mechila will work if it's la'achar ma'isa. If the person that gave this bribe said, I know al pitori you need to give the money back, but right here and now I'm moichel. Person could be moichel any loan. Person could be moichel geneva v'gzeil. He could be moichel halavoa. He could be moichel any monetary claim. Mechila will work. So contrary to the Levush says the mechila is mechila de meikora. When he gave you this bribe, did he give belev sholem or not? And the difficulty with the Levush, I said before, if you're not allowed to take your money, you need to give it back. Even if he did give it belev sholem. So the Shar Mishpat says, it's irrelevant whether you gave it belev sholem or not. But b'di'eved, person could be moichel any claim, any dina momenus. Even Rebbe Tzutza sheyoytze b'diyonim, machlokes the Rambam the Goinim, you could be moichel. Person stole, he robbed me, I could be moichel. So according to the Shar Mishpat, as long as there is no claim, we assume, why isn't he asking for his money back? Probably he's moichel. But he always has the namunas to say, I was not moichel and I want my money back. And even if it's years later, he could say, I didn't know I'm entitled to get my money back. I just realized that now. I just learned that now. I learned Siman Tes and Chusha Mishpat. I'm entitled to get my money back. And he is always namun. He always has the namunas to say, I wasn't moichel. But as long as he doesn't claim, the one that received the money is entitled to assume. Why isn't he asking for his money back? Probably he's moichel me. And if he's moichel, the mechila would be relevant. But according to the Shah Mishpah, the mechila is makan ulahabo and not lemafreya. The Minchas Osha, source number 6, has a different interpretation. When did the Minchas Osha live? Who knows? We hope he's going to live Chaim Aruchim and many more years to come. So let's learn this short paragraph in Minchas Osha. V'hanera ikar bezeh. Dela'olam ein mutal ala chayev letroyach v'leshtadel bepir oin choyvoy ele כשהוא זה שנוטל שלום מדעס הבעלם כגון בגנבה וגזלה. דכיוון שהמומרין בו ליודוי באלמוס וללא רוצן הבעלם הוא זה שהטיל לו לבטוי להויצי גזל מתחס יודו ולשיב לדעס הבעלם. אבל בשויכת שהבעלם נוסנה מדעס אף שהנויטל לא יזוכה במומרין זה ואולב להחזירוי אין אולב כל חיוב להחזיר אלו בתביעס הבעלם. And I think this is a fundamental rule. The person gave me money out of his free will. It's illegitimate, it's not my money, and I need to give it back. But the tircha of getting it back is not on me. He gave the money out of his free will. He needs to come to my house. He needs to ask for his money, and I need to give him. Has nothing to do with mechila. We do not assume a person was moichel. Why should he be moichel? If he knows that this is an avera, why would he be moichel? So my interpretation is not like the Shar Mishpat, not like the Levush. No, we don't assume there's mechila. But all I am entitled, I'm required, all I'm achieved to do is, if he wants his money back, I give him his money. But the tircha, I don't need to go to his house. I don't need to initiate, as long as it's upon him to ask for his money back. And that is by all chiyuvay momoin besides gneva, ugzela, umazik. Gneva v'gzela, v'heisha v'zagzela shegozal. And that's the chiddush of v'heisha v'zagzela. But by other monetary claims, if the Baalim gave money out of his free will, even though I'm not allowed to keep that money, it's not mine, the money needs to go back, but I don't need to initiate. It is he that needs to ask for his money. He needs to come to my house. I don't need to go to his house, unlike Gneva V'Gzela, Kach Nera La'anius Daiti. And it has nothing to do with Mechila. So we don't need to go into this question, into this argument. If we assume he was Moichel, why is he Naaman to say, I was not Moichel? Nothing to do with Mechila. The money is not mine. Very good question. There's no raya from the Gemara, and that would depend on the Pnei Yeshua. If we say, Eino azdum yedek gezel, because he did not give this money out of his free will, he gave it out of his free will, but he was cheated. And if he would know that this is overpaying, then it's Gneva. If it's Gneva, you need to initiate to give the money back. If I know it's not Gneva, then he needs to ask for his money. But Shoichad is different, because Shoichad, I didn't cheat him. He decided, from his point of view, it's a good investment. It's illegitimate. The money is not mine. I'm not allowed to keep the money, but it's not my responsibility to initiate. I don't need to be toreach. Let him come, ask for his money, and if he asks his money, I need to give it back. That would be my understanding. What? That is a very good question, and sometimes I think I'll get away without people bothering me. And I'm happy that they do bother me. How do we know that Rebbe's Ksutzi Yoitze B'Dayonim? It's a posuk. So why by Rebbe's do we need a posuk? And by Noah we don't need a posuk, and by Shoichet we don't need a posuk. Rebbe says illegitimate money. So why do we need V'chayich Yechuimach? So I didn't plan to get into Rebbe's because this is really a complicated sugya, but Rebbe's is different. Tshuvas Rashba writes, Rebbe's actually is schirus. Rebbe's is schirus. So in Chazal, we find schirus batem, schirus behemoth, schirus kelem, schirus poyalim. 4 different types, categories of schirus. Schirus in English is rentals. You don't expect to let a person live in his house without paying rent. Why should he? It's his house. He's entitled to get payment for letting somebody use his house. You rent a car. You know, you have a neighbor, he's a good friend, they'll let you have the car for 2 or 3 hours, go out with your family. But you don't expect a person to let you use his car for a month without paying. You rent a car, you rent a house. You don't expect people to work for you without paying, and that is chiras poyalim. So why would you expect to use another person's money without paying? And that's why in the entire modern world, there's nothing evil about Rebbe's. Goes without saying. You want a loan, you pay interest. The same, the Rashba writes, Rebbe's is schirus mamon, just like schirus batam, schirus poyalim. And that is why we need a posuk that you need to give Rebbe's back. And what is the posuk? The same posuk as we find by tzedakah. V'chai uchicho yimach. And that is why Rebbe's is different than shoichet. Rebbe's, in Shechanor, Rebbe's is nanachoy shemishpot. It's in Yoredeya. So many people think that Rebbe's is exeris akosov. Because why is it different than schiris? And I explain to people, Rebbe's is evil. And why is that? Experience shows us a person that doesn't have the means won't rent a Porsche if he wants a car. He won't rent a Lamborghini or a Porsche, not even a Mercedes. If he doesn't have the money, he will rent a car that is known as Subaru Avrechim. Do you know what type of a car that is, Subaru Avrechim? It's the only car in the world that even a blind person will realize that he's getting into the car. And you need a vacuum cleaner before you sit down on a seat in the car. Because an hour ago there were 10 kids in that car, and there's bamba all over the place. So if you can't afford it, you're not going to rent a very expensive car. And if you want to rent a house and you can't afford it, you're not going to rent a penthouse for $10,000 a month. You're not going to rent a house in Ramat Eshkol if you can't afford it. You're going to rent a modest apartment. But a person that is strapped for cash will pay any price in the world to have money. And wherever there's a person that is desperate, there will always be another person, a bad person, that will take advantage of his desperation. And that's what the Torah asked Rebbe's. Yordu Torah lesof date shalodam. And we see this in Beis Din every day. When a person needs cash, he will promise to pay any price to get his money. And there will always be bad people that'll take advantage of a person's desperation. And that's what the Torah asked. So on one hand, it's not a hilchas beloy tama. It's not chukim chukakti like shatnez or poraduma. But on the other hand, fundamentally, it's chirus. And that is why by Rebbe's we need a posek v'chayoch yichuyimach. Masha enkein shoichad. The entire world justifies Rebbe's. No one justifies shoichad. In every decent society, shoichet is a crime. Because shoichet is illegitimate money. Ribis, on one hand, is legitimate. It's chirus. You don't expect to use another person's car, or another person's behemoth, or another person's toil without paying for it. Ribis is chirus mamoin. And that is why ribis is different. So this is an elanias dati. There is one shoifet that takes ribis legitimately, and that is shoifet kol ha'oretz. Kodesh Baruch Hu takes ribis. Posuk in Mishlei, shoichet mechek rosha yikach lahatois orchois mishpot. Kosev Rashi, HaKodesh Baruch Hu mekabel divrei achnoah vepius mechek reshoim. Kaloimer b'seiso beino lebeinom lahatos orchos mishpot lahafach dinoi mero letoivo. So the posuk in Mishlei says HaKodesh Baruch Hu accepts shoichad. Shoichad mechek reshoim yikach lahatos orchos mishpot. But there's a posuk we learned 2 weeks ago in Chumash. Ki Hashem Elokeichem hu Elokei Olim Adonai Adonai Moed HaGod Lagiv V'Noiro Asher Lo Yisapon V'Lo Yikach Shoichad. So how could Mishlei contradict Toras Moshe? How could Mishlei contradict a pasuk in Mishnah Torah? Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu take shoichad or not? Asher Lo Yisapon V'Lo Yikach Shoichad. And Rashi explains the pasuk in Mishlei. Shoichad mechek rosha yikach lahatois orchos mishpot. We go back to the Rambam, source number 1 on our page. A dayan is not allowed to take shoichad, not only lezakas as a chayiv, even lezakas as a zakai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu lo yikach shoichad lezakas as a chayiv. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu does take shoichad lezakas as a zakai. So Rashi writes, when does HaKadosh Baruch Hu take shoichad? Divrei hachnoah vepius. When we come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, broken-hearted, ka'oni v'charash dofaknu de lo secho, and we apologize to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, HaKadosh Baruch Hu lokeach shoichad. Rashi actually is a medrash, the last source, medrash shoichad toiv. David HaMelech pleased with HaKadosh Baruch Hu milfonech u'mishpot yetzei. Rabbi Levi Yomar, umle HaKadosh Baruch Hu leDavid, alchina masisa l'chos Sanhedrin, leich doin lefneihem. What are you coming to me? There's a Sanhedrin. Go to Sanhedrin. If you have a claim, if you have a problem, go to the Sanhedrin. Omer David Rabbeinu shel olam, v'shoichad lo yisikach. Sanhedrin is not willing to take my shoichad. And I want to give shoichad. That's why I'm turning to you. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, okay, if you want to give money, please. If you want to pay, come to me. What is the shoichad? So the Medrash goes, V'ma ha-shoichad shenoitel min ha-rashoam b'yolam hazeh tshuva tfilo izdoko. So David HaMelech says that Sanhedrin is not willing to accept my tshuva. My prayers are irrelevant to the Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin, they just want to judge me. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, then come to me. I take shoichad. What is the shoichad? Tshuva, tefillah, tzedakah. If a person does tshuva shalema, that is not shoichad. Tshuva shalema is, I rectified, I fixed everything. Tshuva tefillah v'tzedakah is even if it's not a tshuva shalema. There's a famous drosha of the Rashash, drosha lefnei tkiyas shofar. The Rashash one of the greatest mekabolim. And in the drosha lefnei tkiyas shofar, the Rashash says, by tkiyas shofar, everybody should do tshuva, at least on one aveira. Do tshuva on something. Even if you can't do tshuva on everything. If you do tshuva on something, the tshuva won't be machaper other avedas that you didn't repent. But if you do tshuva on something, you already defined, you go into the category of balei tshuva. ובמוקם שבעלי תשובה עומדים, אין צדיקים גמורים יכולים לעמוד. And therefore he says, you need to do tshuva on something. And then you are defined as a Baal Tshuva. I don't know whether a lot of people here speak Yiddish. This Vasemis said, what's oimek apshat b'mokim shebalei tshuva oimdem ein tzadikim gemurim yecholim la'amoid. I'll say it in Yiddish because that's the language this Vasemis spoke, and then I'll interpret. Aber tshuva trefft sich nicht kein Platz. Und HaKadosh Baruch Hu macht den Platz. Und wie HaKadosh Baruch Hu macht Platz, für ein Mensch kennt keinen Stein oder allein. So he says, about tshuva feels lost in the world. He finds no place. He has no space. He's just lost. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes him space. And when HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes space for a person, no one else could stand in that space besides the one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu designated for him. So if you do tshuva, even partial tshuva on something, that is shoichad. You didn't fix what you broke, but that's shoichad. And the shoichad is tshuva tefillah v'tzedakah, divrei hachnoah v'pius. Just come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with a broken heart. Moshel lamoha dovedoime. This is my moshel, and I like it a lot. Two people turn to the same tzaddik, a rich person that likes to do chesed. Reuben and Shimon turned to Levi, the benefactor, on the same day. Each of them asked for a $10,000 loan. Reuben and Shimon the same day. Each of them got a $10,000 loan for 3 months. The 3 months is up in 2 or 3 days. Reuben calls the benefactor, that compassionate, generous person. And Reuben says, I'm calling you in advance. I know that payday is in 2 or 3 days. I don't want you to think for a moment that I am in denial. I remember I owe you $10,000, but I apologize. I won't have the money. I made every effort. I can't come up with the money. So why are you calling? Could you give me some more time? Or let me pay in installments. La'at la'at. Let me start. And he asks him, okay, so how much do you want to pay monthly? He says, I could pay 100 shekel. And the benefactor says, are you making fun of me? $10,000 is up in a few days, and you want to pay 100 shekel? And he breaks down crying, and he says, I wish I could do more, but I tried. This is what I have. This is what I have. So if the benefactor, the one that gave the loan, is a Baal Chemla and a Baal Rachamim, and he's a billionaire, he doesn't really need the money, then probably he'll say, okay, I appreciate you calling in advance, and I give you a bracha. I hope you could do more. So just let me know when you have some more money. Shimon didn't call. And the day of payment came and went. Ein kol ve'ein oina. So the malva that gave this loan calls him, and on the receiving end, the guy recognizes his voice, puts down the receiver, doesn't respond. He says, I know where he davens shachris. I'm going to meet him in shul. Comes to shul in the morning after davening. He sees his friend, and he goes to the fire escape, the emergency exit. Can't contact him. Both are balei choiv, but only one is a ben Belial. Reuven did whatever he could. He called in advance. Shimon is in denial. Shimon is a Rasha. Reuven is not. So Reuven will get a break. Pay when you could. Make an effort. I'll patiently wait for you. And that's what Chodesh Elul is about. Payday is Rosh Hashanah. That's when it really starts. Rosh Hashanah starts the Yemei Adin. Those are the Yemei Mishpat. And that is when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sits in judgment. Elul is our opportunity to call HaKadosh Baruch Hu in advance and say, will 100 shekel be enough for right now? No. We can't do it all. We can't do it all. That'll take a major effort. But could I start? Could I start paying something? That is what Elul is about. Elul is an opportunity to call in advance and to tell HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I don't think we'll have all the money. I don't think I could take care of the entire package. But let us start. And that's what the Novi Yeshaya says, bring something. Rashi writes there in Hosea, Ma'at masim toivim shebiyodi. That is the shoichad that HaKadosh Baruch Hu accepts. Divrei hachnoah vepius, writes Rashi. Come back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Divrei hachnoah vepius, just apologize. Just acknowledge the loan. Just acknowledge we know that we owe you so much. Give us more time. Give us gesund. Give us nachas. Give us shefa. And we'll do our best. And that is what Elul is about. So let's hope we'll have a great Elul, a great Zman, all our new Talmidim and all our previous Talmidim. And let's take advantage of this Elul, of this gift that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us to come back to Him. Terem yavo'u yemei hadin. Before payday is here, we turn to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and we start. And we offer shaychad. And the shaychad we're offering is tshuva, tefillah v'tzedakah maviren esraya gezera. Have a beautiful Shabbos, and we should be zoichet lirois pnei Moshiach tzedkeinu b'meiru v'yameinu amen.